Seasons deserves a special word of commendation because they have been here for the past 3 decades and have contributed tremendously to the life and times of this island. Nearly every family on this island has had some contact with the Four Seasons, either as a worker or a family member working, or they have been a supplier, a provider, a contractor with the Four Seasons. Our fisher folk, our farmers, everybody has had some contact with that resort. Of course, the Four Seasons started way back in 1991. They opened their doors, but they have continued to contribute, and they have grown. Over those years, when it started, it was obviously just the hotel. Now they have, I believe, something like in the region of 60-plus villas that form a part of that as well. And so the vision of Four Seasons is still manifesting itself 30 years on. In recent times, this government would have been part of the renegotiation and the sale of that property to a new group. And we would all recall that that new group has invested upwards of $60 million in upgrades. Again, a significant investment which demonstrated confidence in the island of Nevis and the local economy. What is remarkable about the Four Seasons Resort is that we are advised that this was their first foray into outside the United States and Canada. And so this was their first international property. And the fact that they chose Nevis, I think the public should consider for a moment Nevis of 30 years ago. If you reflect on Nevis of 30 years ago, you get a sense of what a quantum leap it must have been for Four Seasons to have come. And I recall the opportunity that I had to meet with Isidore Sharp, who was the founder of Four Seasons, at his home in Toronto. And Mr. Sharp said to me that when he saw the site, he fell in love, we say, is history. So we're grateful to them. 30 years, I think, 30 excellent years, and we thank them for their contribution. We also have seen the milestone for Social Security, which has celebrated 43 years on the 1st of February. Social Security, I think, is perhaps the marquee institution in the Federation of St Kitts and Nevis. I think as we look at pivotal events and developments for our island and our country, Social Security has to be perhaps in the top 5, at least. Independence certainly is there. Adult suffrage, which came before independence, is there. But Social Security has to be mentioned. And that safety net that Social Security provides, more than ever, came to the fore during this COVID-19 pandemic. During this pandemic, it became quite obvious that Social Security and the relevance of Social Security remained quite high. And so Social Security was able to offer some relief to our people in their darkest hour. And for that period of time, last year in particular, when we were deep in the grips of this pandemic, we felt that Social Security came to the fore and came to the rescue. So kudos to Social Security, the minister, my brother, Minister Hamilton, the entire board, and of course the staff there. They continue to serve us well, and I continue to urge our people to make their contributions, to pay their Social Security, particularly our self-employed, to go in and register. You know, the irony of the last year has been that those who thought that Social Security was not important to them, when the pandemic hit, they found themselves at Social Security's door. The problem was that many who found themselves at the door had never paid a penny to Social Security. But everybody showed up looking for something because they wanted relief. How much more then would Social Security have been in a position if persons were in fact paying and contributing, that when crisis comes, and crisis will come, that they are in a position to help? And so I urge those out there who might be listening to continue to be responsible citizens, to pay their Social Security contributions, because Social Security has demonstrated time and time again that they are a critical institution for the social safety nets that are so important in our country. The Nevis Disaster Management Department would have received a donation of supplies valued at US $28,000 from the United States Southern Command, US SOUTHCOM. The gift was made up of supplies which included foldable cots, cotton blankets, first aid kits, hygiene kits, non-medical masks, gloves, and automatic hand sanitizer dispensers. And so I again thank the United States government. We have had an excellent relationship with the U.S. government, and in the Nevis Disaster Management Department has had a wonderful relationship with the U.S. State, the U.S. Southern Command, U.S. Southcom, and that relationship continues to bear dividends and bear good fruit for the people of Nevis and the wider Federation, and we thank them. Let me spend a moment to talk about vaccinations. The public would be aware, and members of the press, some of you would have covered the event yesterday, where the members of the Nevis Island Cabinet, all of us, got vaccinated. The vaccine that is available is the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and we would have been vaccinated yesterday. I, in fact, was the first person on the island of Nevis to be vaccinated in that way. My wife, Sharon, was the second person, and we thought it important to show our confidence in the process. We thought it important to step forward, cameras rolling, that the public can see that we were comfortable and confident that there was no risk, and frankly, the process, having gone through it, was painless, it was quick, it was efficient. I would want to thank, of course, all of those involved in organizing it, but especially our nurses, who did a fantastic job and who put even someone like myself, who's afraid of needles, at ease. I confess that I didn't feel it. It was so quick that when I was preparing myself mentally for the needle, it was already over. And so it was quick, it was seamless. Now, I took my vaccine just about 3 or thereabouts p.m. yesterday, and it is now, by my watch, just after 10 a.m. the following day. I can say to the public that I have no side effects whatsoever. I have no pain, I have no headache, I have no fever, I have nothing. Now, it may not be so for everyone, but I've checked with my colleagues, and all of them are saying that they too have nothing. I think one colleague said he had a slight discomfort in his arm where he got the shot, but beyond that, nothing. My wife is well as well, and so I think that so far it appears that we have done quite well. I think PS is here. He got the vaccine as well. PS, you okay? He looks dapper as usual, so he doesn't appear to have had any issues. And I have spoken to Dr. Nisbet, who heads our task force here in Nevis, and she also is doing well. So those that I've checked base with before coming here all say that they're doing well. And of course, we continue to encourage our people to get vaccinated. We say to get vaccinated. What we said, don't wait, vaccinate. That is the tagline that they've come up with. Don't wait, vaccinate. The idea is that vaccinations have proven over the years and over the centuries to be a good way to avoid disease and to combat disease. Let us reflect, for example, that we do not have things like polio anymore in St Kitts and Nevis. All of us in this room have been vaccinated. Many of us got it when we were in school, and it was routine. I remember the nurses used to come to Ivor Walters Primary School, and you know it was injection day, because they came, of course, to vaccinate us against tuberculosis, TB, against mumps, rubella, against chickenpox, measles. We get vaccinated sometimes when they say you get a tetanus shot. All of these are vaccinations that we get. And ordinarily, we don't even think about it. You know, you get dug with a nail or something, a rusty bit of metal, and you go and you get a tetanus shot, and there's no little thought given to it. The reality is that I think we accept as a public that vaccination works and that vaccination is important to keep us safe. The experts are telling us that this is the way out of this COVID-19 pandemic. I am very pleased that St Kitts and Nevis has done remarkably well so far. COVID is unpredictable, and so good news today may not hold, but I think we have done remarkably well so far. There have been 41 cases total across the Federation. There's only one active case at this point in time, and that case is on our sister island of St. Kitts. We have had no local cases, meaning no community spread. All 41 cases have been imported. We have had no hospitalizations. We have had no deaths. I think that that is a remarkable record by any measure. And just recently I saw a video that went viral listing St Kitts and Nevis as one of only 8 countries in the world that was so safe that they said we were COVID-free. On the island of Nevis, we've had 12 cases, 6 before our borders opened, 6 since our borders have opened. And of the 6 since our borders reopened, 4 of those were a single family. So we've had 12 cases, and I'm thankful that today I can say that in Nevis we've had no positive case since the 6th of January. And so we've now gone a month, almost 2, without any positive cases on the island of Nevis. So we have done well. The vaccine now provides us with that additional layer of protection. It is not to suggest that we abandon the non-pharmaceutical measures that have kept us safe thus far, because obviously we continue to encourage our people to physically distance, to wear their masks when in public or interacting with other persons, and certainly to wash their hands frequently. Indeed, just last night and on the MARC program, I had Dr. Nisbet and Nadine Carty-Keynes from the HPU, the Health Promotion Unit, and they emphasized that pandemic or no pandemic, washing your hands often is important hygiene. We were taught that as children. I'm not sure when we lost the habit, but we need to redevelop those habits of good hygiene, because good hygiene saves lives and prevents many diseases from spreading. And so I just wanted to reiterate that the vaccines are available. They will continue, of course, to roll out the public relations exercise. They will continue to roll out the campaign. They will continue to ensure that the people of Nevis are made aware and that they understand and recognize that getting vaccinated is really the way to go. As I said, I am standing here today as the Premier of Nevis and some specimen, living proof of somebody who was vaccinated just yesterday. And I don't think my voice sounds any different. One person said I will soon stop thinking for myself. At this point, I'm still thinking for myself. My faculties appear to be in order, and I just think that we need to, finish away with a lot of the chatter and just get to it and get it done and keep us safe. Remember that nobody is safe until everybody is safe. And so the idea really is that all of us should be vaccinated. We have yesterday made it a point to invite the parliamentary representative from the opposition, the Honourable Cleone Stapleton-Simmons. She was invited by us to be vaccinated with us. She demurred and will do so at some other occasion, but certainly we will encourage her and those that she leads and those that she represents to also get vaccinated. I say that because I wanted to be clear that we see this as an all-of-society approach. We do not see that there is any politics in this. We do not see that there is any reason for anybody to not wish to be vaccinated. The only questions here should be safety and security of our island, and that is what we are seeking to achieve. And so we want an all-hands-on-deck approach, all shoulders to the wheel, as we go out and roll out the vaccination campaign. Now, the initial vaccines that we would have had were 2,000 vaccines that we received from Dominica. Dominica, in turn, would have received those vaccines from the government of India, and the government of India has kindly consented to send vaccines for us directly and for other countries in the region as well. We expect another 20,000 doses from that same vaccine, Oxford AstraZeneca. Those should arrive, I'm advised, very shortly. I know that the arrangements are being finalized. And thereafter, we should also receive vaccines that we have purchased from the COVAX facility, and those should arrive shortly thereafter that. So we expect, in fact, I saw something put out yesterday by the Honourable Prime Minister's office, that we expect that we should have almost 50,000 additional doses of vaccines very shortly. So that will allow us to really move in a mass way to vaccinate as many people as we can, and for people to come forward and be vaccinated. There is a priority list, but I think the approach now is that once the vaccines are available, those who may wish to be vaccinated should simply go into the clinic or call the health promotion unit or the local health center and get a date to come in and be vaccinated. So I encourage you to vaccinate. As we said, don't wait, vaccinate. That is what we hope will be resonating with persons as we go. Vaccination, as I said, provides a second layer, second tier of protection to our island, and we wish to have our island safe. We're safe now, we want to be even safer. And so I encourage you to do the necessary. Just so you know, the AstraZeneca, the Oxford AstraZeneca that we're using, that requires 2 doses. And the first dose having been administered, we have taken the position nationally, because it's a national program, that the second dose will be administered 10 weeks later. The science says that it has to be administered 8 to 12 weeks later. So the reason they've chosen 10 is because if you've taken the first dose and they can't find you at week 10 for the second dose, they have a 2-week window to track you down. So that is the whole idea, that they will track you down. You get a vaccination card, a document, and that document will show that you're vaccinated. Now, I think that this is an important information for you to have, because I anticipate, I don't know, but I anticipate that part of the response might be that you will need your vaccine in order to move about the world. I recall recently I had to go to Africa, and the country I was visiting was Senegal, and I had to get a yellow fever vaccine before I could go to Senegal. They needed proof that I had been vaccinated for yellow fever. I heard recently that one airline, I believe it is United Airlines, is already considering whether vaccines would be a precondition for persons flying on that airline. So I think that we are where we are. None of us brought COVID. None of us wanted COVID. I have said publicly, and I have been ashamed to say so, that when I heard of Wuhan in China, I never thought that Wuhan would reach to Charlestown, but it did. And so we now have simply to respond as best as we can. And the vaccine is the proven methodology. I was very pleased to see that on St Kitts, the Prime Minister and members of the cabinet over there were vaccinated. There was, I'm told, some questions as to why the Premier and Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of Agriculture and the Minister of the Environment, being the Honorable Alexis Jeffers and the Honorable Eric Evelyn, respectively, were not vaccinated in St Kitts. The simple reason was that we felt, as the Nevisian representatives, we should be vaccinated on Nevis, and that would demonstrate to the Nevisian people the necessary leadership that we think was required. And so yesterday, I was the first, and I'm still standing and I feel well. So I encourage one and all to go out and get vaccinated. Let me switch to the movie business. I believe there's been quite a bit of conversation in the public space. I am very pleased that thus far we have a movie that is to be made here called 1 Year Off. I'm told it's a comedy, and 1 Year Off starts filming today. Matter of fact, let me use this rostrum to extend an invitation to all the members of the press who are here, that at 2:30 we will be going to the set of 1 Year Off. They are filming at Crishy Beach, and they've extended an invitation to members of the press to come and to see firsthand what it is they're doing. I saw some photographs this morning, and they've transformed Crishy Beach into a set, a movie set. And I'm therefore inviting you at 2:30, if you can, please, to join me there as we pay a visit, you, the members of the press, and those of you who are interested in the movie business. Certainly, you may want to have a look as to where you might fit in to what is going on. I am very pleased because the coming of these movies is a manifestation of the effort that is being made by this government to diversify the local economy. We recognize that the preoccupation with hotels and tourism, that COVID demonstrated that there was some difficulty in that preoccupation. Because whilst over the years that I have been here, the standard talking point for development has been, no new hotel come. The last hotel that came was Four Seasons, no new hotel. I asked the question rhetorically, if we had 100 hotels, what value would there have been with the airline shut down and the airport shut down because of COVID? So I think that COVID has taught us some valuable lessons. One of which is that we cannot any longer put all of our eggs in the tourism basket, that we have to diversify our local economy. And so we have gone out, we have looked at financial services. The government has thus far been successful in attracting 2 new international banks and through our legislative initiatives, allowing a third that has been there for some time to be sold and reorganized. And we are grateful that so many people are enjoying quality employment, good paying jobs at those institutions. We have invested significantly in agriculture. We have incentivized construction. We are now looking at something that is brand new and has never been done before on the island, and that is the whole movie or film industry. We haven't stopped there. We are also looking at the fashion and photography industry. We had some fashion shoots that have happened here already, but we are now promoting that even more and saying that when we look around, some of us take it for granted, but we are truly living in one of the most beautiful places on earth. And when we look around, there is much that we have to offer. And the fact that we've done an excellent job in relation to COVID, and that God has been generous to us, merciful to us, that actually positions us quite well to attract people. And I can tell you that one of the main attractions for MSR Media to come and to partner with us to make these movies on Nevis was our record on COVID. They were looking at other places, Barbados and Puerto Rico, for example. But because of our excellent track record on COVID, they said, what, just 12 cases on an island? That's where we want to go. No cases since January the 6th? That's where we want to go. When we negotiated with them, we said to them there will be no compromise in relation to our protocols. That if they're coming, they must come, but they must come and adhere to the full protocols that we have established. And they accepted that. And they're here now, and they're happy to be here because they feel that they're in an environment that is safe. I say that to say that that would not have been possible without the excellent leadership that we've had, the task force level, both in St. Kitts nationally and locally here on Nevis, the leadership that we've had from government that has been prepared to listen, the hard decisions that have been taken. Many of you here, I'm sure, would have in your quiet moments complained and said that these are too draconian. Who would have thought that in our country we would have had lockdowns, curfews, people lining up to use the bank or the supermarket? But those were measures that we took. And I believe in all this sometimes we forget to thank the public of St. Kitts and Nevis. And since I'm on Nevis, more specifically the Nevisian public. Why? Because had you resisted, we wouldn't have had enough prison space to fit everybody. So we must commend the public because the public put up with all the impositions, all the restrictions, and the public must be commended. It is because of the discipline of our public that we now could attract movies to Nevis because the people are saying the island is safe. And so today I hope members of the press, you'll avail yourself of the opportunity to go to a real live movie set on the island of Nevis at Cushy Beach at 2:30, where you're invited to see what all this chatter is about. I am delighted that I have met with the producer, Mr. Philip Martinez, and his team of MSR Media, and that they have indicated that the initial deal was to do 2 movies. I'm told he might make an announcement this afternoon, and so we look forward to any new announcement in that regard. But thus far, I'm advised that they have hired some 32 full-time staff. They have rented some 22 apartments, units at the Hamilton Resort. And so we say kudos to the Hamilton. They're benefiting significantly from this. They've rented them, I'm advised, for the rest of the year. They have also rented between 5 and 6 villas for the rest of the year. They have rented several cars and trucks and vans to move people around from various car rental agencies for the rest of the year. And they are obviously engaging with caterers, they're engaging with various hotels. They are currently, I'm advised, booked out Golden Rock Inn, to do a filming there for the next 3 weeks. So Golden Rock will be closed to the general public for 3 weeks. They have hired some 11 at this point local actors who will have speaking roles. I'm told that a speaking role simply means that you have something to say in the film. And then in addition to that, they've hired some 167 extras. I'm told there's fancy language for it, but I know it as extras. That's people like me who will just stand at the bar with a beer and say nothing. But they will pick you up on the camera. You know, the movies when you see people in a nightclub dancing, those are extras. So they have 167 of those. What is important, I think, is the economic spin-offs from this. Because all of those people that I've mentioned are being paid. So even the extras are being paid. The actors are being paid, the local actors. The gentleman advised me that his payroll at the moment is up to 80 persons. 48 of those have been brought in from overseas. Those are largely the technical people, camera, sound, etc. And he has 32 local people already employed full-time. Now, we have to think about this in terms of its multiplier effect. 48 people are actually living on the island. They've moved here. 32 local people are now enmeshed with them. So we have the economic multiplier, but we also have to think about the training and the skills transfer that we expect to happen. Because local people are now embedded with them in terms of the film business. So for those of you who are into videography, for example, you now get the tips, you get to learn what they do to make films. I don't know where the editing and things like that will be done, but more than likely, again, local people would be exposed to that. To lighting, makeup. In fact, the gentleman said to me that they thought that they would have to bring in makeup artists and hair stylists, only to find out that the island has some of the best that are available. So a lot of what they thought they might need to bring, they don't need to bring because people are here and people can do those jobs. And so it opens up a whole new world for our people. Now, to prepare our people for even deeper involvement in the film industry, it was announced, I believe, just 2 days ago that they've also launched the Acting Academy. And this Acting Academy was an idea. The design of it was really to facilitate our people who have an interest. And I say our people because it's open to the people of St Kitts and Nevis and anyone else who's here who might have an interest in acting, to be exposed to the skills and the training as an actor. I know some people are probably natural-born actors, but it seems that where films are concerned, some training, and that's why they have acting schools all around the world. So this academy, which has been launched, the idea is to afford, I think they say up to 20 or 22 persons, if memory serves, an opportunity for free to get training. And why is this important? Because if, as we hope, these two films are going to transform into 6 and 8 and 10 and 20 and 50, then we expect that local people will have an opportunity to be exposed to acting opportunities. So in a way, it's an investment that we are making in partnership with MSR Media in the future of the film industry here. Just to alert the press that the government is not stopping there. We have not said, well, okay, we were able to attract these guys, they're going to do a film. We have already started the process of reaching out to other studios, other independent filmmakers, even television studios, and we have said to them, listen, take a look at Nevis. We're open for business, we're safe, and we can accommodate your film and your filming needs right here on the island. And it is our hope that people will respond positively to that message. And we feel that we are certainly at the cusp, at the entry point of a new industry here on the island and the wider federation that we would wish to encourage. Just to advise that at the same time that 1 year off, a feature film, a comedy based in and on Nevis, and written for Nevis, because I'm told that Nevis is mentioned over 100 times in the script, So that film, while that is happening on the island of Nevis, there is a very popular television series that is also being filmed on the island of St Kitts, a series called Below Deck. And those persons, I gather, are based at the Park Hyatt in St Kitts. And I'm sure some of you may have seen that film. It has to do with luxury yachts and persons working and living on those yachts and the sort of antics that they get up to. Very popular. And just yesterday, they were on Nevis filming some of the scenes for Below Deck. So again, it demonstrates how the entire Federation benefits. The movies that are being made in Nevis, while they're based in Nevis, will also benefit St Kitts. For example, one very obvious benefit that I will speak to is that the vast majority of persons who came in as members of crew who quarantined at the Marriott in St Kitts. So those 48 people, the majority of those actually were at the Marriott in St Kitts. So there is benefit, and I would expect in the fullness of time that filming will occur on both islands. And what we're doing here is not a narrow sort of vision, but a broad vision. And Nevis, I think, is taking the lead on this, and we are encouraging, of course, persons who are interested across the Federation to get involved. Some members of the press here, if you have the acting bug, get involved. I think that there is tremendous opportunity there. Let me very quickly, because I don't propose to detain you too long today, indicate that the Ministry of Tourism, in collaboration with the Nevis Tourism Authority and the Ministry of Health, will be hosting yet another COVID sensitization seminar. That is, you will recall we have done some in 2020 already. Persons who are working in the tourism sector are required to have this training, especially if they're going to be around international guests. They will have to apply for a St Kitts and Nevis approved seal. That certificate is a prerequisite for the issue of the seal and will be issued to participants. That is a certificate that you have participated in this COVID sensitization seminar. Many people have been asking, when is the next one? Because they weren't able to attend those last year. And so please mark this date. There will be a sensitization seminar on Monday, the 1st of March, 2021, to be held at NEPAC, Nevis Performing Arts Center, starting at 9 a.m. So that is very important, that persons out there mindful and minded to work in the tourism industry, if you're a musician, you're a trumpeter, whatever it is you offer, and you want to go down to Four Seasons and play, you want to whatever, you have to go through this training. And it's available at NEPAC at 9 a.m. on the 1st of March, Monday the 1st of March. Please take advantage. Pinnis Park, it's a popular topic of mine. It is one of the signature projects that we've sought to do here on the island of Nevis. I'm told that work is progressing smoothly. And my dear friend from Taiwan has now indicated that they're at 52.7% complete. So they've passed the halfway mark, 52.7%. Foundation of the visitor center has been completed. They're now running up the walls for that. Outdoor bathrooms are done. Only roofing remains to be done. Cosmetic work is being done in Nivision stone to the outside of these structures. The sewage system for the park, the components have arrived. Those will shortly be installed. And we have already done some 14% of the landscaping because they've decided to do the landscaping at the same time, where possible, as they do in the construction. The target date, if you recall, is December 2021, and they advise that there have been no delays and that we are well on track. So I would want to just note that things are going well there thus far. The Ministry of Tourism is working assiduously to improve the aesthetics of our heritage sites. At New River, work has begun on the construction of a perimeter fence, which will serve to protect the heritage assets on the site, as well as to facilitate landscaping, erection of interpretation signage, and the addition of a visitor center. That should be completed somewhere around Easter 2021. We're also doing some upgrades at Fort Charles, where bathroom facility has been added. The grounds have been cleared and prepared for landscaping. We are asking for the patience of the public, but also to advise that we have seen a tremendous uptick in interest from the public. People are asking for these sites now for weddings and groups and picnics, and that is, I think, a very important development. I would wish to publicly commend Mr. Sylvester Mead our heritage sites manager, and the entire team at the Ministry of Tourism, led as we are by the prominent Secretary John Hanley, for their diligence and passion in the area of heritage tourism. Exposition Nevis 2021, we're asking you to save the date, that the activities dubbed Exposition Nevis will be held April 18th to 31st May. The theme for this year is fostering domestic tourism, and you will hear a lot more about it. In terms of the Nevis Tourism Authority, we're very pleased that the St Kitts and Nevis has been listed in the travel publication Travel Pulse among the 10 safest destinations in the Caribbean. In fact, we were #1 in terms of safety. And just a brief quote, and I quote, St Kitts and Nevis has the Caribbean's lowest travel advisory at level 2. What's more, the CDC, Centers for Disease Control in the United States, has lowered the dual island nation to a level 1 in regards to the pandemic. So I think more good news for the island of Nevis and the wider Federation of St Kitts and Nevis. Let me switch very quickly to the Ministry of Culture, Youth, Sports, Community Development, Telecoms and Information. The closing for the 6th annual 3-month skills training program for at-risk youth took place this morning, Thursday, February 25th, at the Yes to Success Center at Pinnes. You would recall, members of the press, that I had come and was quite proud that we had commissioned this new center at Pinnes. The 6th cycle commenced on October 19th. 3 skills training areas chosen for this cycle were the art of pottery making, heavy equipment operation, and program planners included the OECS digital jobs training offered through the OECS. The pottery sessions were conducted in Newcastle Pottery, while others were conducted on site. A total of 27 youths were engaged during the period of this 6th training session, but 18 saw the program to full completion. The Department of Youth also collaborated with the Department of Youth Empowerment on St. Kitts to host a 25 Most Remarkable Teens Development Workshop on Saturday, February 20th at the Cotton Ground Community Center. The workshop engaged remarkable teens from both St. Kitts and Nevis after they would have received their awards in November. A similar workshop is also slated for Saturday, February 27th on Nevis. Let me use the opportunity on behalf of the Ministry of Education to thank the Rotaract Club of Nevis, which has been the most recent donor of a number of PT3 infrared no-touch digital forehead thermometers. The gesture was done in celebration of the club's 5th anniversary of being chartered. Miss Asia Smitten, the club's acting president, presented the gifts to Ms. Zanella Claxton, Principal Education Officer in the Department of Education, on February 3rd. And we are grateful to the Rotaract Club for thinking about our children and donating these infrared thermometers to our Ministry of Education. Let me segue to agriculture. And we have been making some considerable strides in agriculture and food security. We are pleased to announce that our chill facility at Prospect, with 6 walk-in rooms, that is now completed. The facility will significantly improve the food storage capacity on the island, thus reducing the amount of spoilage experienced. We are currently finalizing the operational framework in preparation for a grand opening. The Department of Agriculture, in collaboration with the Nevis Tourism Authority, will on March 8th, and this I think is an important development, begin welcoming visitors to the revamped Cades Bay Agro-Tourism Project. On selected days, visitors will be able to get an educational tour of the farm and various trees and sample whatever is in season. At the end of the tour, smoothies, teas, and a sample of local agro-processed items will form part of the experience. So, for those of you who would want to go on the Cades Bay Agro-Tourism Project, that is a collaboration between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Tourism. And it sounds quite exciting, where you can go, and if mangoes are in season, you sample those. If avocado is in season, you sample those. Whatever might be in season, guavas, you sample those. And you also get smoothies, teas, etc. So we are looking again to see how we can do more with what we have and how we can collaborate and create value. And this, I think, is an important development. We're also pleased to announce the hosting of the Nevis AgroFest 2021. The theme, Eat Locally, Boost Immunity. Time, Friday, the 26th of March, 7 a.m. until. It will be at the Villa Grounds, and all sections of the Department of Agriculture will be represented. Farmer stores will be available. the Department of Marine Resources with fish and fish dishes, and the entrance is free. We will also host the regular fresh produce sale on Friday the 26th of March on the south side of the Charleston waterfront. Local produce from farmers and the abattoir will be available at bargain prices. The Department of Marine Resources will also host its rescheduled Fish Festival on Friday 26 March on the south side of the Charleston waterfront. Fresh and cooked seafood will be on sale from 10 a.m. until. Let me switch very quickly to the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs. The Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs would wish to congratulate, and I join them in congratulating, Rowan Bramwell, Earl David, and Sherilyn Dorr Stapleton, who have successfully completed and passed a 12-week emergency medical technician EMT training program at the JNF Hospital in St Kitts. The program started on 23rd November 2020, ended on 12th February 2021. And I believe that that is very important because, as you know, we have invested in 2 brand new ambulances, signature development, first time again in the history of the island, and we are equipping our people now for handling those new ambulances and responding to our population who may fall ill and require the emergency services in a timely way. EMT staff, doctors and nurses at the Accident and Emergency Department are also currently receiving some refresher courses and continuous training in emergency dispatch, care and treatment with paramedic and highly gurgle, courtesy of the Four Seasons Homeowners Foundation. So we thank them at the Four Seasons. The Homeowners Foundation has always been a significant partner to the government in health, and we continue to work closely with them. Over the past 2 weeks, Ministry of Health officials, both in St Kitts and Nevis, met to discuss and finalize the country's COVID-19 vaccination communication and distribution strategy. The nurses involved in that process were also briefed, given a refresher training on 19th February on administering the vaccine. These activities are part of the rollout of the vaccine. Now, I heard there was some chatter about the nurses not using gloves when they administered the vaccine. I confess I didn't notice because I was so concerned about my own jab that I wasn't paying attention. But I have checked, and the response that I've got is that the WHO guidelines and the training that the nurses would have received did not require them to use gloves. And so there's nothing wrong with what was done in terms of a procedure. So I just wanted you to know that. We encourage persons to visit the Nevis Health Promotion Unit and the St Kitts Health Promotion social media pages and complete a CARFA COVID-19 vaccine acceptance survey. This will help to inform general public education vaccine campaigns to address concerns, build trust and understanding, and engage and empower the public. A similar survey specific to St Kitts and Nevis can also be found on the 2 social media pages, along with other social media pages and platforms, to assess the public view of the COVID-19 vaccine that is to be administered. The Ministry would also like to place on record our profound thanks to Waters Anchor Center for Health and Wellness and the Dreamy Group out of St. Kitts. Waters Anchor donated 112 STYR24 kits, which included a smart scale and activity tracker, connected bottle and free app, and sync all 3 devices. These devices will aid in tracking and optimizing the use of motion, hydration, and nutrition. The kits were distributed to the clinical staff at the Alexandra Hospital and the Flamboyant Nursing Home. And Dreamy Group, I remember they called me. I would want to thank my good friend Natalie. They called and they said they wanted to donate 200 roses to the ministry as part of their Valentine's Day. Those roses were distributed to health workers on Monday, the 15th of February 2021, just one day after Valentine's, and I'm told that the response was overwhelming, and we thank them at Dreamy Group. They used to be called Dreamy Weddings. I think they're now taking the dream much wider than just weddings, and we thank them for that. Let me go very quickly to Public Works, the Ministry of Works. The Public Works non-established workers would have come back to work on February 1st, and during the period February 1st to February 12th. Now, I think the press is going to find this. I found it humorous. I hope you find it humorous as well. That the engineer technician from Resinil, the supplier of the new milling machine, was on island conducting in-person training and commissioning the new machine. During the second week of his stay, February 8th to February 12th, an actual milling project was undertaken under his supervision. And the bit that the project included the milling of the Island Main Road from just below Hosford's Building Center to Rams Shopping Complex, and along the Long Point Road and Pump Road from Valley Mart entrance to the bridge just before Water Department. The repaving effort commenced on Tuesday, February 16th, and was done by the Sunday, February 21st. Total of 2,780 feet, or just over half a mile of roadway, was milled and resurfaced over the past 2 weeks. You would recall that we had made a significant investment in a milling machine, brand new, and that will allow us. And so what we did there was to test it while the technician from the supplier was here. The bit I thought you might find funny is that the name of the technician they sent was Mr. Axel Corona. And so we had Mr. Corona, who was here with us, and Mr. Corona thankfully has imparted his knowledge and left. So he didn't stay. So Mr. Corona has done what he needed to do and left. So Mr. Corona, we want to thank you. We trust you got back safely. We also are engaged in a number of other activities. The crew from Public Works, you may see them all over. They are up at the garage, the government garage, doing some work there. They are and have done the work at the walk-in freezers there at Prospect. They are also doing refurbishing of the asphalt plant and the bathroom and facilities there. They are engaged in some work at the Charleston Public Market. They engage with housing the new water department. I think we advised that the water department building section will be moved very shortly to the a building in town on the Charlestown Main Street. And so they are doing a tremendous level of work through the Public Works Department and through our new project management unit, which also provides considerable support. I will end by speaking to the Nevis Post Office, just to indicate that they are planning a stage, they're at the planning stages, of implementing a web-based application for counter operations. The first phase in digitizing the post. The main objective is to reduce processing and turnaround time of parcels, packages, and letterbox payments by up to 50%, and at the same time increase productivity, efficiency, and customer satisfaction. We are expected by September of this year to be in a position to launch that technology. I will leave it there and invite any question that you may have in the interest of time, and reiterate my invitation to each and every one of you to join me at 2:30 at Crishy Beach on the set of 1 Year Off, the historic first movie to be filmed on the island of Nevis. Thank you.
Good morning, Monique Washington, St Kitts and Nevis Observer newspaper.
Good morning, Ms. Washington.
Mr. Premier, with the rollout of the new vaccine, I mean, we already know who will be receiving it first, but is there a percentage or an amount that will be given to Nevis from the over 21,000 vaccines that should be already here? And can we get an update on the progress or the decline in the Nevis Geothermal project? And has any thought been given to abandon the project and look into upgrading Nevlec's plant instead? Thank
you. Monique, thank you very much. Thank you for your questions, always excellent, always professional. In terms of the percentage of vaccines, I think that the percentage that comes to Nevis traditionally is between 20 to 25% or thereabouts. I think of the 2,000 that we got, courtesy of the government of Dominica, 500 of those will have come over. That represents 25%, I think. 500 out of 2,000 is 1/4. So the two ministries work very closely together, and we understand that with the level of interaction between our people, St Kitts and Nevis, we are one people, we are traveling back and forth all day. It makes good sense, naturally, for us to spread the vaccine across the entire country. Because as I've said and we continue to say, nobody is safe until everybody is safe. So the vaccines are being shared in an equitable way, and so far things have been working very smoothly between the ministries at the national level and at the local island level. The geothermal project is interesting that you asked, because we had a meeting, was it yesterday, PS? Yesterday, with the technical team on Nevis, the legal team, the NEVLEC and others, and we're actually at the end stages now of completing our renegotiation, because that's what we've been engaged on. So far from abandoning the project, we are actually prepared to move forward with the project. And we had some minor points left to renegotiate. There is a new player that has come in as an equity partner, a company called Albioma, and we are working with all of these different lawyers and different individuals to ensure that we have the best possible deal for the island of Nevis going forward. So the project is definitely on. What I will say to you, however, is notwithstanding that we are committed to geothermal, we haven't stopped trying to upgrade NEVLEC. So the two things aren't mutually exclusive. We have continued with the upgrades at NEVLEC. In fact, I would have advised recently that the government took a decision to purchase another Wärtsilä engine to ensure that we have sufficient capacity at NEVLEC to carry the island, so that we are not putting, if you will, that on hold while we wait for geothermal. We are saying that we should have the capacity, and if and when geothermal comes, then we do the necessary switching over to renewables. That is the ultimate goal, but in the interim, we continue to upgrade. So NEVLEC, I believe, I don't hear anybody talking now on social media about not having power, so that's always a good thing, because we know when power goes off, it's a huge inconvenience to persons. Two things. If the press is going to give this government any little credit, that I'll ask you to give us some credit for. Nobody making noise about electricity and water on Nevis. And we all remember when a lot of noise was being made about electricity and water. So our people have water and our people have power. And I'm very happy about that. And that is not by chance or by accident. That is because we have been investing and we have been working to improve the delivery of those two essential services to the people of Nevis. Any other questions for me?
Mr. Premier, good morning.
Good morning.
German Abel, SKN Vibes. A couple of questions. One, in terms of frontline workers, we know there's been talk that it's up to the individual if they want to get the vaccine or not. But is there a policy going forward whether or not those frontline workers will have to take it, in light of the fact that St Kitts and Nevis is pushing for a 70% inoculation rate, basically? So what's the NIA's position there? Secondly, with regards to the banking issue, issue surrounding banks, we know recently CIBC had regulators did not approve the sale. RBC is out. You're bringing two more financial institutions into Nevis. How concerned are you that we are seeing a lot of the territories, Dominica, Trinidad, still on the blacklist of the European Union, that this will be affecting more financial institutions from coming into the region, as well as those who currently in the region continue to exit? Okay,
Mr. Abel, thank you for your questions, and thank you again for being here and for your always professional approach. Let me deal with the vaccination issue. I think thus far, nowhere in the world that I'm aware of is the vaccine being made mandatory. However, as I've just indicated in my introductory remarks, it may well be that while it is not mandatory, that it becomes mandatory because of the practices that develop. For example, just yesterday, I was looking at the BBC, and they were talking about employers who are now saying that if you're not vaccinated, you can't work there. And so individual companies and institutions are taking decisions that might end up forcing persons to take the vaccine. But no government, as far as I'm aware, has mandated that the vaccine has occurred, because for a variety of reasons. People have their individual rights, health rights, etc. So we don't expect that it will be made mandatory, even for the frontline workers. what we are hoping that through our media campaign, through our public awareness, that people will recognize that it is for their own protection. The reason why we wear masks is for our protection, but it's also for the other person's protection. If you're masked and I'm masked, it protects both of us. Equally, if I'm vaccinated and you're vaccinated, it protects both of us. And so the idea really is to make the case to the public. As I said, vaccines are nothing new. All of us in this room have been vaccinated. I'm not asking, I'm telling you that all of us in this room have been vaccinated, one way or the other. Because some of us got it as children and we didn't even think about it. We've gone back, we've got booster shots. I remember in the old days, people used to have a scar on their left arm. Now it's done a little different, I suppose. I don't see the scars anymore, but they used to have this round thing on their left arm. All of this is vaccination. So it is nothing new. And I think that a lot of the furor that you're hearing is probably just because we haven't been able to put the information out there in a way that people can grasp it, understand it, and allow us to move forward. So at this point, we're using moral suasion, and we're saying to our people, please go out and be vaccinated, and trying to provide some leadership. And that's why I went yesterday with my wife and the members of the cabinet to say, hey, we trust the process. We trust the vaccine. We think it's safe. And again, here I am talking to you, having been vaccinated yesterday, and I am not feeling any ill effects at all. Insofar as banks, you're correct. We have always to be concerned. The watchwords now are regulation, oversight. We have to ensure that our anti-money laundering, our anti-terrorist financing, and all of those are up to speed and on par with what the international community is requiring of us. You talk about blacklisting. I have said that I try to avoid that language because I don't know how anything that is black is bad. I have said that the list of uncooperative jurisdictions is perhaps better language. Or if you wish to call it a white list, then I would probably use that language. But a list of uncooperative jurisdictions is, I think, better. The EU, regrettably, continues to operate, I think, in an unfair way. The reality is that they have removed Barbados recently, but added Dominica. And I think that the public and the members of the press, you must ask yourself, with the world in the grip of a global pandemic, where people are dying, where hospital systems are being overrun, where people are now frantic, countries are frantic to get hold of vaccines so they could save lives. Where Brussels find time to talk when they're putting people on lists of uncooperative jurisdictions? I mean, these are the questions that need to be asked. Where you find time to attack poor little Dominica? And it's not good enough for me to say, well, Nevis ain't on it or St Kitts and Nevis, because we could be on it tomorrow because nobody knows what the criteria is. What are they applying? What's the yardstick? Today they tell you this is fine. Tomorrow they come back and they say, oh, and they have another look at it. And you must question the timing. Forget for the moment what it is they're seeking to achieve. I don't know. I don't even know if they know what they're seeking to achieve. But the timing of it. Here's PM Skerritt and Dominica fighting to keep Dominica alive, keep people alive, the people in Roseau. Keep them alive. The people in Trafalgar, keep them alive. That's what he's trying to do. And the EU, some technocrat in Brussels are going to say you're uncooperative in the fight against money laundering. People have time for money laundering right now. People trying to save lives. And I'm not suggesting that, oh, it becomes a free-for-all. We understand that the banking system must be clean and clear of any corrupt practices, any illicit money. But the timing could not be more cynical. To put any of these islands and any of these countries that are struggling to maintain life. Forget about livelihoods, because livelihoods are secondary now to maintain life. And that is the response of the EU. And I think the press needs to engage them on that. I feel very strongly about it. Not because it's not us. We must be our brother's keeper. And we have continually said that it is unfair, it is prejudicial, it creates tremendous reputational risks and harm to these countries to be put on these lists as if we are some kind of pariah. When in reality, when you look at the statistics, the largest money laundering scandals we've had in the globe have not happened in the Caribbean. They have not happened in the Caribbean. To find those, you must go to the money centers of the world, many of which are in Europe. So we have to speak truth to power. And if you have the biggest problem, and you have accounted for the most cases of widespread fraud, corruption, and money laundering, what qualifies you to target us? You know that old saying your grandma used to tell you, the devil can't correct sin. And that is the concern we have. And we are in a world now where it appears in the conduct of these matters that might has become right. And we must speak up and speak out against these things, because I think it is an abuse of power to use your economic might to put pressure on small countries like us, and like Dominica. And I am not the ambassador from Dominica, and I hold no citizenship there, let me make it clear. But I believe that we must speak up for each other. It is putting pressure on Dominica at a time when Dominica is engaged in a fight for the lives of Dominicans. It is incredibly cynical of the European Union. And I would like them to look at these matters and consider how they're being viewed from outside Brussels when they take this type of punitive action against the people of our region. Any other questions?
Good morning, Devon Cornelius, WINN FM. Just
Good
a few
morning.
questions. Can you provide an update on the inaugural meeting of the CARICOM Canada Foreign Ministers Group you recently led a delegation to? And can you provide an update on the investigation regarding the destruction of crops and livestock, as well as how many households on Nevis were affected by NEVLEC disconnections? And lastly, can you provide an update on the one and only resort in terms of the mechanism by which the land is being transferred to the developers? Thank you.
Let me start where you ended. Land transfer, you say mechanism, I'm not quite sure what you mean. Land is transferred through a legal process in terms of a memorandum of transfer or deed, as the case may be. I'm not quite sure what you mean by the process. The resort that it is intended to build there at Indian Castle, as the press may know, has been under discussion for many, many years. It is something that predated my administration. In fact, if memory serves, it goes back to about 2008, when I believe Mr. Parry, the Honorable Joseph Parry, was the Premier of Nevis. Those discussions were crystallized then. They were reformulated and renegotiated when Mr. Amry, the Honorable Vance Amry, became Premier. And it fell to me again to look at afresh at this deal that was done in relation to lands there. As I understand it, the lands are to be transferred to a company which will be jointly owned by the government and the developer, and that entity, those lands, will then use those lands as security to secure funding for the development of the relevant property there. That is the sort of broad framework of the deal. There are, of course, other components in terms of concessions and tax breaks and the like, but the bare bones are basically that government land is being made available for purposes of a development of a resort. And it is not unusual in terms of the scope of what is being done and the framework of what is being done, that essentially what is happening is that the people are providing an asset to try and spur economic activity. Because this particular developer and this particular development has been talked about now for the last 12 or so years, we have in our recent negotiations given them 12 months to say to them that within 12 months we want to see some action, we want to see some movement there. And so we'll wait and see. It is early days yet as to where we are in relation to that. In terms of households that would have been affected by NEVLEC's disconnections, you say, NEVLEC continues with its position that it prefers to collect than disconnect. And I don't have a number for you, but I would hope that very few households would have been impacted. I say I would hope because I said I don't have the number at hand. The reason I would hope that is because our position has always been that where you have contracted government services and are not paying, that rather than being disconnected, to go into the utility and have a conversation. If there is some good reason why you have not been paying, there's an opportunity to enter into a payment plan. We ask people to come in. Don't just allow your power, your water to be disconnected. Come in and talk. What we have, Mr. Cornelius, in some cases, not all, are some people who simply refuse to pay. And some of the names, maybe if we get to that stage where we have to come and call some of the names, because I'm pretty sure that as a young person you would be in shock if you heard some of the names that were refusing to pay for electricity and water. I was in shock when I saw some of them, so I'm sure you would be in shock too. Because I'm pretty sure that you and your family try to pay your electricity and water every month. And if you can't pay all, you pay some. But there are people who for years have not paid in the case of water, and for months have not paid in the case of electricity. And what happened with COVID is that we offered relief to those who needed it. Remember, not everybody was affected the same way by COVID. Let's not forget that. Public servants, for example, continued to get their pay as usual. Some of them who worked in the banks and, various institutions continued to get their pay as usual. The relief that was offered was designed for people like the Four Seasons worker who was laid off, the Montpelier worker who was out of work, the man whose little business had to close down because of the curfew and because of the lockdown. That was the individual was being targeted for relief. What happened was, people whose income was not affected decided they ain't paying either. And let's just face it. That happens because people figure, well, they said Tom don't have to pay, so I'm not going to pay either. But Tom's situation and your situation were two different situations because Tom lost his job. You never lost your job. You continue to work. It's the same with the bank. You didn't ask me this question. But the bank granted a moratorium. And the bank said for 6 months, people did not have to pay their mortgage to try and get people behind. People who walk in and getting paid, stop paying their mortgage? I'm telling you. They decide, well, if moratorium being granted, we're going to take moratorium too. Problem now is that they haven't paid for 6 months. What now happens is that when they go back in now after 6 months, things are probably a bit more difficult. So when relief is offered through NEVLEC, through the banks, through whatever, the relief is offered to those who genuinely need the relief. And so that is what we are saying. If you have and you still need relief, come in and talk to us. The government is not seeking to be harsh. But for those out there who can afford to pay but refuse to pay, then we think that that is unconscionable, and we're asking people to be responsible. You asked about investigation of the crops. I do not have an update on that. What I can say is that I have convened a meeting because the particular crops that were destroyed is that area that is going up towards Westbury, and the Providence Secretary, Mr. Daniel, and myself, along with the police, because the police have said they've grown frustrated at the number of complaints that they keep receiving. And so we have convened 2 meetings now. One here at the conference room, here at the Premier's conference room with the farmers. And the second, actually, we went on the farm, went at the site. And we have met with the farmers. And what we have over there going on, Mr. Cornelius, is really persons who are not at peace with each other. And so we are seeking to say, listen, the island needs food. We are encouraging food security. A matter of fact, the inputs that many over there have enjoyed have come from the government. We have provided fencing wire. We have provided free plowing, free land preparation. So we have contributed to those who want to produce food. And we are working now with the lessee of that property, which is the geothermal people, to see how we can formalize and grant maybe a sublease. In the meantime, we have said to them, do not plant any long-term crops. So don't plant fruit trees and think that you're there for 10, 15 years, because we do not know at what point you might be asked to vacate. However, short-term crops are quite acceptable, and they will lead to food security. Matter of fact, I was quite pleased that when we went over there, when was it, P.S., we were there? 2 days ago? Wednesday? Could have been, yes, Wednesday. When we went there Wednesday, I left with a nice pumpkin and some sweet potatoes, because the farmers are producing. So, Mr. Cornelius, the investigation, I hope, is still ongoing. I do not have an update on that specifically. But in the meantime, I am hopeful that my intervention and the intervention of my office directly with the farmers would lead to some peace over there, and that we would have no reoccurrence of any difficulties with the farmers at that particular location. The Canada CARICOM summit that was done, I think, was successful. It, in fact, involved the Foreign Minister of Canada, Foreign Minister Garneau, who is the new Foreign Minister, and he would have convened with the foreign ministers of the region. I was able to speak as the lead foreign minister in one of the segments which had to do with COVID-19 and the whole recovery efforts and the impact that COVID-19 has had on us. And I was honored to lead the delegation and to lead the effort on behalf of CARICOM in relation to that subject area. Broadly speaking, the conference had to do with COVID and our response. So there was some considerable discussion about COVID, about vaccines and the availability of vaccines. I think that the press would be aware that there is some issue now about vaccine equity and the access to vaccines, because some rich countries have basically bought up a considerable supply of the available vaccines in the world, leaving the poorer countries, including the Caribbean region, to sort of fend for itself. And the problem, and I think Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves graced us with his presence to make the point to the Foreign Minister of Canada that the problem is that even sometimes you have money to buy, they're telling you they have no vaccines to sell you. Why? Because the EU and Canada and the US have gobbled up hundreds of millions of these vaccines. In fact, some are saying that some of these regions and countries have in fact bought several times the number of vaccines that their population represents. So some of them, if they have 10 million in population, they buy all 50 million vaccines. And so what that is doing is leading to the vaccine manufacturers not being able to keep up and to supply the vaccines to the rest of us across the world. You look, for example, at a continent like Africa, the penetration rate is quite low compared to, say, the European Union or compared to Canada or the United States. So those issues took center stage. We also raised, not me specifically, but the Prime Minister of St. Vincent raised in his own inimitable style the issue of visa access to Canada. It is not just an issue for St. Kitts and Nevis, it's an issue for our region. And the point continues to be made to Canada that you cannot say that we are best friends, as indeed we are, and require us to get permission to come and see you. That friends, I'm sure, Mr. Cornelius, when you go by your friends, you don't need a visa to go and see them because you're friends. And we therefore have said to them that you must treat us as friends, and friends do not require permission to see each other. We had, as you know, enjoyed visa-free access to Canada for many years until we lost it back in 2014. And since then, we've been trying to get it back. And we've had various attempts at the highest levels. None have thus far borne fruit, but that issue is still very much on the agenda, not only for St. Kitts and Nevis, but also for the rest of CARICOM. So those were the issues that took center stage. COVID-19 and the response, vaccines and access to vaccines, visa waiver and visa-free access to Canada. Oh, and one other matter, forgive me, the suspension of flights from Canada to the region. And there was a commitment that that will be looked at quickly to see how soon we can resume Canadian flights to our region, such as Air Canada, forgive me, the name is, but another airline there from Canada. I almost said Northwest, but it's not that. But there are a few airlines that come from Canada to our region. And so we certainly look forward to the resumption of flights. As you know, flights were suspended to our region by Canada. So those were the issues that were dealt with. And we think that that forum provided an excellent platform for us to move forward in the future to really cement even closer the bonds of friendship that bind the people of our region and Canada.
Good morning, all. Good morning, Mr. Premier. Jarvis Brown from Vaughan Radio.
Good morning.
Just two questions, sir. Can you give an update on the NEPA website? And also, will SKN source vaccines from other companies, or is it that the Oxford AstraZeneca is more efficacious at the time, sir? And those are my two questions. Thank you.
Okay, the NEPA website, I have nothing new to report. We did the launch, as you know, members of the media were invited. And as the rest of the site becomes developed, we will inform the media. Thus far, we are working with it. We have just signed off on hiring a technical person to manage that site, and we expect that that site will yield some dividends and benefits for the people of Nevis in terms of investment. We are looking very closely at whether or not we need an investment czar for Nevis. That is somebody who we will charge with attracting investment. We recognize that it's difficult for, I have responsibility for investment, for example, but I have responsibility for many things. And we really want somebody focused in a laser-like way. So we're looking at a number of options to see, Mr. Jarvis, to see where we go in relation to NEPA. But there are no new things to report. When that happens, we will let the media know. In relation to the vaccine, thus far it appears that the preference of St Kitts and Nevis is the Oxford AstraZeneca. The Oxford AstraZeneca, we are told, has an efficacy rate in preventing the disease of anywhere between 62 to 90%. That's the range. And I believe that the efficacy increases with the second dose. So anywhere from 62 to 90%. It's a two-dose vaccine. Pfizer, for example, and Moderna, they have, I think, up to a 95% efficacy rate. However, the problem with those two, because there are only three that the WHO, I gather, have approved for emergency use: Oxford AstraZeneca, Moderna, and Pfizer. I think those are the three, right? Now, the Pfizer and the Moderna present problems for us in terms of transportation and storage. The Pfizer in particular has sub-zero temperatures, and apparently when it's taken out of storage has a very short life. So you have to literally take it out and administer it within a short period of time. It is also incredibly expensive. I believe that the last numbers I saw suggested that it costs up to $33 per dose, and it requires 2 doses. So to vaccinate each individual here, you would require up to 70 or thereabouts US dollars per person to vaccinate with Pfizer. Moderna, I think, is a little cheaper, if memory serves, but certainly around a similar price. The AstraZeneca, on the other hand, is only about 4 to 5 US dollars per dose. So it's cheaper. In addition, the AstraZeneca is easier to transport and store. It can be stored, we're told, from 2 to 8 degrees. So a regular refrigerator, you can store the AstraZeneca. You can't do that for Pfizer and Moderna. You need to invest significant sums in those types of freezers to store those. So there are a number of practical reasons. Bearing in mind that we live in the tropics, naturally the environment is a warm environment. There are a number of factors that we had to look at here. Cost, ease of transportation, ease of storage, shelf life after it's taken out of storage. All of those were factors that we had to look at. And so AstraZeneca was determined that that would be the choice. So we're using the Oxford AstraZeneca. Initially, these initial supplies are out of India, and then, of course, we hope that those that we're going to get through the COVAX facility will become available. Are there any other questions?
2 quick questions, Mr. Premier. One, this is in your capacity as Minister of Foreign Affairs. I know India has been doing a lot in supporting St Kitts and Nevis with regards to its fight against COVID, but has the government approached any other country, territory for assistance outside of Taiwan? And I don't know if you have this information. Can you tell us how many vaccines we should be expecting tomorrow in the tranche that is coming from India? And in terms of Nevis and the CBI, we know there's been a lot of economic repercussions from COVID-19, but how has the program been going since the start of the pandemic? Have you been still receiving applications from persons overseas?
Well, thank you. Let me start with the CBI because that is not really a question for me. CBI program is handled exclusively on St Kitts. So the Prime Minister will be better placed as the minister with responsibility for that, because applications don't come to Nevis, they don't come to the Premier. Even for developments that are on Nevis, everything is processed on St Kitts. All the fees are paid in St Kitts. So even if you have a development on Nevis that is a CBI-approved development, everything for that development is still handled on St Kitts because of how the CBI program is set up. So there really no direct involvement with the Nevis government and citizenship by investment, other than for us to approve or to give our consent that a particular project be designated. So all the processing, all the numbers, etc., would go there. And I don't have those numbers that would indicate whether we're up or down insofar as CBI is concerned. But certainly the Prime Minister would be in a position to answer that. In relation to have we approached other countries, diplomacy is what it is. We approach partners, yes. In fact, I'm here now. I'm going to rush back because CARICOM heads is actually having a meeting as we speak. The intersessional is happening, and the St Kitts and Nevis' delegation is led by the Prime Minister. It's being done remotely. But part of that discussion is whether or not we ought to send basically letters of request to other countries. India has stepped forward in a very significant way. And I think that that is consistent because it was at the United Nations General Assembly in 2019 that Prime Minister Modi would have met with prime ministers from the region and gave a commitment that he would want to have better relations with the Caribbean region. And I believe that he has definitely kept his end of the bargain in terms of closer working relationship. Because with all the wealth that is available for countries globally, the truth is that India has been the one country that has stepped up in a significant way. I am advised that the vaccines we ought to receive tomorrow will be 20,000 vaccines. I said tomorrow or shortly thereafter because the transportation is being sorted. St. Lucia is to receive as well. St. Vincent is to receive as well. Suriname is to receive as well. Antigua and Barbuda are to receive as well. So India is assisting all of those countries. Of course, India has also assisted Barbados and Dominica. And Barbados, out of its supply, was able to assist Trinidad, I think, and Dominica, out of its supply, was able to send some, I think, to Antigua and to St. Kitts and Nevis. So India has stepped up in a significant way. Are we speaking to others? The answer is yes. As we know, through negotiations, Taiwan has offered some $600,000 for the purchase of vaccines. And if you did the math, I just pointed out that the AstraZeneca is costing about $5 per dose. So if you divided $600,000 by $5, you get a sense loosely of how many vaccines we'll be able to purchase with that very generous gift from Taiwan. As I've always said, Taiwan is not just a friend. Taiwan has been our best friend over the years. And then we have Venezuela as well, that has recently proposed some $200,000, again, for the purchase of vaccines. So the truth is that with $600,000 US from Taiwan, $200,000 US from Venezuela, with the commitment we've already made insofar as the COVAX facility is concerned, we should have enough vaccines to vaccinate the entire population of St. Kitts and Nevis. And we hope that we can get to a point where we can say that we have 100% penetration. But if not, at least let us get to the point where we achieve the magic number for herd immunity, which is 70 to 80%. So through diplomatic efforts and the continuous engagement with our diplomatic allies, I believe that we're in a good place insofar as vaccines and vaccinations and availability are concerned. Any other questions for me? No? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. This has been short and sweet. I invite you again at 2:30 to join me, please, on the set of 1 Year Off at Crishy Beach, and I hope to see you there. Thank you, and God bless you.
There you had it, folks, on our edition of the Honorable Brantley monthly press conference here on WINN FM. We now head back to our regular programming.